Hello, I'm Professor Geraldine Glass, and welcome. Welcome to the Sacred Science of Sound online series. I'm so excited and passionate about bringing such a diverse group of people together to share conversation about sound, energy medicine, frequency, vibrational healing, all the things that we can integrate in our daily lives that may make a huge difference, just as sound and energy medicine has made in my life. I am more than thrilled and delighted to begin the series with a woman who has become my mentor the last 5 years as I sat in the most challenging time of my life when I lost my only son 5 years ago. And her work and our interaction and our ensuing friendship have changed everything. So it is with great joy that I introduce you to Dr. Sue Morter, bioenergetic pioneer, bridging science and spirituality, and quantum visionary. Welcome, Dr. Sue Morter.
Geraldine, it
Ooh.
is always my divine pleasure to share time with you talking about these things that matter most. And the opportunity of sharing that with other people is, is profoundly inspiring to me always. And I so appreciate what you have done to put together this series and the work that I know that it has taken to engage with everyone and get it organized the way that you have. So I can't wait to see where we get to go today in exploration.
Thank you. So I'd love to begin by sharing with the viewers two visuals that happened when I met you. And so I met you about 7 weeks after Dylan, my son, had passed, and I joined you for a journey to Machu Picchu. And it's something that Dylan and I had always wanted to do. And so I asked him, okay, son, tell me, who am I going to go with? And I opened the computer and Googled spiritual journeys to Machu Picchu. And there you were. So this was what changed my life, Dr. Sue. Would you share a little bit about what happened?
Sure. So we were climbing to the top of Huayna Picchu, which is a peak inside of Machu Picchu, and Geraldine was supposed to go with us that day. And that morning, she said or the day before, she just said she wasn't up for the climb and just didn't want to do that. And so she had given me this photo of Dylan, and I took it with me up the mountain. And at the top of the mountain, we sat and combined with everyone that was on that trip with me that was taking this separate little hike, big hike. And we just did a little ceremony for Dylan. He always wanted to see Machu Picchu. And so I pointed it in every direction and showed him the view as if he wasn't seeing it already. But he also had written something beautiful and I read it. And in that tribute to Dylan, um, someone was taking photographs and showed me this picture after we climbed down the mountain and we're on the train ride back to the hotel. He came back to me. His name was Greg, and he came back to me with tears in his eyes and sat just in the seat next to me on the train and just didn't say a word. He just showed this to me. And what was happening was this ray of light is Dylan's connection through the dimensions. And so profoundly, we sat there and wept together. And then I took it and shared it with you, Miss Geraldine, and a connection was made that I was hoping would open your heart and your mind to the fact that you would never be without your son, that this opening through the veils is here for us always. And we're here to learn how to access it through all means that we can find. And this day was a most sacred one, that this made itself obvious in physical form. My experiences on the mountain drive me forward, making me want to succeed, to climb up the mountain of difficulty, conquer its peak, and enjoy the ride down. Although the ride down is exhilarating, the hike up is just as important. As Hercules wrote, the way up is the way down. I value every moment of my time on the mountain and every moment of my life. Dylan Sage.
Oh, we just got
Okay,
a message.
Dylan,
Oh, bless
have that.
you. I just got a message that it stopped. Darn it.
When you see that beam of light come in, and I began to learn with you that we are indeed made of energy. Your incredible book, The Energy Codes, and you teach we are made of energy, and that energy gets compressed, it's light and it's sound vibration. And when I saw that video and you see the beam of light come in, and of course, you know, the still picture, it began to open a door of possibilities that sound could be a way for me to heal, a way for me to understand a much bigger picture of what truly was happening, not just in my own life, but in all lives, for humanity.
It is actually exactly that. We are made of light. We're made of light compressed into form. When you take energy and you start compressing it, it creates physical matter. So the phones that we talk on, the computers that we watch, the chairs that we're sitting on are all made of energy, just compressed into a different vibrational frequency. And we engage in a life that is just made of energy. Our thoughts are energy, our emotions are energy, our health and vitality is energy vibrating at certain frequencies versus other frequencies. And so when we heal, it is because we start to allow more frequencies into our system than we were allowing just a moment before. And whenever that happens, we open, we heal, we begin to recognize more of who we actually are, our wholeness, in ways that are like no other.
Dr. Sue, you yourself have had an incredibly profound experience with sound. Will you share about that, how sound and vibration has changed your life?
I was chanting one time in a room full of 300 people chanting, and I was new to the whole thing. I didn't really understand what chanting was all about. I didn't really know how to meditate. I just was drawn to learn. I was drawn, and so in the middle of a time in my life when I was very perfectionistic and trying to improve upon myself all the time, really kind of obsessed with learning and bettering myself, I was just drawn to sit down and learn to meditate. And what happened instantly was an opening occurred. And in this opening, I began to, I recognized in an instant actually, that I was not this physical self. I was actually a ray of light that was suspended high above the earth. I could see in 360 degrees in every direction around me in a light so brilliantly bright. It was 10 times brighter than the brightest day in the desert that I had ever seen. And I was completely complete. I was me, but I wasn't in a body. I could see the earth beneath me about the size of a marble. And I was embedded into it up to what would have been my knees. And every time I took a breath, this beautiful pink, iridescent, translucent horizon would rise up and then fall down on my exhale. And it would rise up and fall down on my exhale. And what was happening was I knew that this light that I was in was me, and that I was compressing it into this channel that I was, and I was breathing love to the planet. That light was becoming love through me into the planet. And it completely changed my life. It was like I was a scientist. I was in a clinic. I was treating patients, trying to get rid of headaches and back pain and, you know, help people through divorces, and those kinds of things were happening in my world. And now all of a sudden I was in a different world, and it was sound vibration and my own breath that took me there. It was allowing a sound to move through me that I didn't know what it was, but it was sound frequencies that activate parts of our consciousness in certain ways. And in those sound frequencies, I started activating parts of my own memory. And lo and behold, I began to awaken to the higher self. It changed my life forever. I turned my life into a living laboratory after that to figure out how in the world did that happen and how can I do it again. And I began to live from exactly that place. And by doing so, I began to recognize many patterns within myself that were based in insecurity or based in fear or based in reactivity or overperforming or overgiving, all in an attempt to create some kind of wholeness. And all of a sudden I realized actually that wholeness is right here. And all we have to do is learn how to tap into it and redirect our attention. And this is why I'm so grateful to you for putting together the sacred science of sound, because we are made of that sound vibration. And when we start allowing it through music or song or toning or humming or anything that we can do to get out of our mind alone and direct our mind toward this true core soulful self, we start healing because we start connecting the dots of mind and body and breath again as they're supposed to be. So yes, sound has had an effect on my life.
And I think I've begun to understand, being a professional singer for most of my adult life, I understood what it felt like to run sound vibration through your body without a microphone. But what I began to understand with you was, what does it mean to embody? What does it mean to embody sound and really be the sound and become the sound in a way that, if you could share a little bit about the healing aspects. In other words, I began to understand that if I could land in my body with vibration, I didn't need to be afraid to feel grief. I didn't need to be afraid to, I didn't have to bypass, as you teach with the whole bioenergetics, and I didn't need to bypass those feelings inside me. I could breathe, feel them. They were safe. I could embody, and then everything shifted.
Yes. We are made of sound vibration. And sound vibration is just many different vibrational frequencies. And when we experience thoughts or emotions that are dramatic or traumatic in any way, those are certain frequencies also. And when we can learn to familiarize ourselves with certain frequencies that we have never experienced before, but if we can embrace them instead of pushing them away, what happens is those frequencies that we're now being invited to experience are actually tapping into parts of us that we have never known. And if we could come to know them, we would know ourselves as whole and complete. And then and in the experience of being healed, we would move forward in such a fashion that we're operating on more of our cylinders. We're operating on more of our circuits. We're operating in a way that gives us access to things that we never knew before, parts of ourselves that we never knew before. So here you were in a traumatic moment in your life. Your son has gone. You didn't expect that. You thought life was going down this path. It's ripped you on to a totally different direction. And all the while, you're being told, everything that happens is happening for a reason. And you're like, show me the reason, because I'm not finding a good one in this. And what we did was we directed your attention into your core. And the energies that were there were energies that were new to you, and you didn't want to feel them. And my number one invitation to you was, feel them, Geraldine. Please let them be okay. Don't ward them off. Don't reject them. Don't push them away, because those energies are parts of you that cannot be left behind any longer. Those energies have to have an honored role in your life. Those energies have to become an active, engaging, alive part of you. If you push them away, you will leave a gap inside that will close off as a gap, fester, and haunt you for the rest of your life. And if you can embrace them and embody them, by embracing them, we embody them, we become them, we let them merge with us instead of holding something at bay. When all the while, we're ultimately intended to embrace life, not to reject it, not to outrun it, not to deflect it, not to hide from it, but to little by little embrace it. And so what I was sharing with you is just the work that I do in the world is teach people how to build the circuitry to be able to do that, to be able to feel what we're feeling without being afraid of it, and to be able to breathe with it in such a way that it not only doesn't hurt us, it enhances our life experience. And Geraldine, you are an amazing presence on the planet at this time. You are a beautiful, loving, healing, guiding light for so many. And I know that it is because you have taken what was haunting you and you have embodied it. You have metabolized it. You are working with it every day. You are allowing it to empower you instead of shut you down. It is our mind's disposition on every vibration that we ever encounter that will determine if that vibration is going to serve us and set us free, or to haunt us and keep us smaller than we were ever intended to be in the first place.
I mean, I just think it was not a, not a miracle, but I name it that. It was meant to be that for me to open that computer and to say to my son, okay, Sonny, we're going to go to Machu Picchu together. That was what the plan was. Show me who we're going with. And your face came up first, and it was immediate and apparent, but my thinking mind said, well, Dylan, aren't we going to go with the native shaman? Where's the Peruvian shaman? And he was like, Mom, she is the shaman. And one thing revealed to the next, and it was like this bigger picture began to emerge that, and and if you had said it to me at the beginning that his passing would have been in any way for good, I really would have slapped you. I mean, it was just like, don't go there with those. It's so big, right? And yet I began to understand what you teach the bus stop, that there is such a bigger picture, and then related to our whole chakra system, and when we can see this bird's eye view, when we can get a bigger picture of our life and our soul, and the reason we're here, Dr. Sue, everything changed. And I look at my face, and there's joy there. There's a purpose. There's a passion. There's so much opening that I never ever could have dreamed about.
That's exactly what happens the moment that we accept. People think that we have to accept something intellectually, and that's very hard. Like you were saying, you were not poised in a place at all for me to say, accept that this has happened and be good with it, because only good things happen and this is that. Your mind would have just been doing, somersaults, trying to get away from that kind of an idea. We intellectually cannot understand things that we can still embrace. We can still embrace them physically. So what I'm doing with the energy codes is teaching people how to embrace things physically, work with the energy itself without naming it, without trying to understand it, without rationalizing it. Just there's a feeling inside of you that's vibrating in any given moment, particularly when you're in an upset state, or you're overwhelmed, or we're out of control in some way, or we're wondering what life is going to dish up for us because times are changing so rapidly. And we just don't know. And there's this quiver inside. And the invitation is embrace the quiver. Don't name the quiver. Don't avoid the quiver. Don't try to compartmentalize the quiver, because actually what's happening is that quiver is a sound vibration that's trying to come up and out of you, that we haven't had the wherewithal to steward it. And so we shove it back down and try to keep things the way they were feeling yesterday or last month or last year. And all the while, the whole of the universe is changing all the time. And change is actually in our favor. We're always supposed to be evolving and allowing something new to birth through us, and to be in the exploration and the grand adventure of life, rather than putting on the brakes and trying to keep things status quo. And so in that moment of strain or sprain or a disdain in any kind of way, that we are putting on the brakes and digging in our heels and saying, oh my God, how am I going to do this? If we can just embrace the feeling itself, the vibration itself, it will be a healing moment, because we are made of every vibration that exists. We're made of the universe compressed into a body. And so every vibration of the universe is inside this body. And when they start to break loose and start to awaken and enliven, we get freaked out about them. And we think that the dramatic things or the traumatic things that have happened in our lives shouldn't happen. But if we understand the bus stop conversation, which is basically that we go to the bus stop on the way to Earth and we strike up a conversation with others at the bus stop waiting to come to Earth, and we decide, kind of a soul contracts idea. We decide what we're going to awaken to and how it's going to happen. And some of what we choose is, I'm going to awaken to my magnificence and I'm ready for whatever it takes to get there. And so inside of that, it might be, I'm going to need some piercing or some, shape shifting in some way that just really rocks me to my core so that I can shake it loose and wake it up. And other parts of it are, I'm going to do things and accomplish things and meet people that just, give rise to let me blossom. And so all of it collectively is our life experience. And when we start embracing that, from this idea of this bus stop conversation and these agreements that we make, and then we come down into this life and forget that we made those agreements so that we can authentically walk in to those experiences and unpack ourselves and awaken. When we start embracing life's happenings like that, everything changes. We start being able to see that, my God, there's something good inside of the most painful things that happen in my life. My God, there's something beautiful. And I'm actually able to not only help myself, but to turn around and help thousands and thousands of other people because of what I found, how I knew that we could survive it, how I know that we can come through these things and not just survive them, but thrive through them and embrace and embrace and embrace more of our own true magnificence. That ultimately, from this perspective, and quantum science is really the backdrop for this bus stop conversation, is that we find what we're looking for. And if we're truly looking to grow and we're truly looking to find our true self, that anything that happens in the course of our lives will be aligned with us recognizing how we can become and allow ourselves to become the whole picture that we are truly intended to be, instead of keeping ourselves compartmentalized in some way, smaller than we're meant to be. So even the traumas serve, beautifully.
When we learn to walk as a new vibration, or when we talk about raising our vibrational frequency, raising the positivity, or however you would like to name it, and we talk about walking in the vibrational frequency of joy or of love or of kindness, will you speak into that?
Sure. Many times I'm working with people in workshops and I'll share with them that it's not about trying to become happy or trying to find joy or trying to find peace. It's about recognizing I can do peace anytime I choose. I can do joy. I can dial into the frequency of happiness anytime I choose. And our minds think we can't do that. Our minds think that we are subject to our environment, that we are at the whim of life, that if something happens in life that makes me happy, then I can be happy. And if nothing's happening in my life to make me happy, then I'm likely to not be happy. And I'm searching for someone to share joy with, or I'm searching for something to bring me a sense of fulfillment, when all the while, that's not how it works at all. It works exactly the opposite of that. Rather than saying, when this thing happens, then I'll be happy, I'm basically saying that when we get happy, this thing happens. When we get joyful, this thing unfolds. When we are at peace, peaceful things abound. Because quantum science is showing us that the whole of our life is a reflection of our own consciousness. And if things are not going well for me, then I am not going well for me. I am not honoring me. When I align my mind and my body and my true spirit, or my true essential self, which would be like psychology's equivalent to my own inner child or my own inner self, when my faculties align like that and they're operating in a unified way, we tend to ourselves. There is self-love is present. We're able to bring forth what is in our heart of hearts, what we truly desire. It doesn't get left behind. We don't end up with a feeling like we don't matter, or no matter what I do, things aren't going to turn out for me. It is not meant to be that way. And if life is feeling that way, it is all because we just haven't learned how to bring our mind and our body and our breath, or the spirit of who we are, which is the same in the body, the spirit is the breath, bring them together and let them work in a unified way. And once we learn how to do that, we realize that we have access to every single vibrational frequency. So if we were to think right now of something that we love, someone that we love, something that we cherish, something that just brings up so much joy in us. Maybe it's our children, maybe it's our grandchildren, maybe it is a beautiful spring day, maybe it's being able to help another, maybe it's playing a musical instrument or singing or humming, maybe it's weeding your garden or dancing or yoga or meditation. It could be anything that brings up this joy. Maybe it's your pet, maybe it's your beloved. In any sense, just think of it right now. Envision yourself and then feel yourself. Imagine that you're right there in that right now. And fill your whole body with it. Notice how you feel when you just think of this thing. When you just imagine yourself in it, notice the feeling inside of your body. And then there is an invitation to double that feeling inside your body. Just double it. Just exponentially let it fill the body. Just relax and allow it to fill the whole body, and double it again. And then double it again so that it flourishes inside of you so much that it emanates off the surface of your skin. And release into it even more, and let it be enhanced even more until it expands and fills the room that you're sitting in. And all of this love and all of this joy that you're filling the room with, just intensify it. Just let it be magnified. And then just say, all of that for me. Just receive it. Just let it all fall right into you. Let it rain into you. Let it collapse into you. Let it all come tumbling into you in this glorious, loving way. And you're being loved right now. You're loving and you're being loved. You're allowing love to be magnificent and whole and full. And so it's an unconditional love that we can create anytime when we are loving and receiving at the same time. We're truly cultivating the vibrational frequency of love. We can do that with peace. We can do it with joy. We can do it with any vibration. And then we start to practice, what does love feel like in my body? What does this love feel like in my body? And I'm going to walk around today in that vibrational frequency so that everything that happens, it gets to come through that filter. Everything that happens in my life, I'm going to see it through these eyes of love. I'm going to feel it through this body of love, and I'm going to embody it through this cellular frequency of love. It's going to come. If it's going to come into my life, it's going to have to pass through love to get to me. It's that kind of a mindset. And when we do that, we're emanating a vibrational frequency, and everything that comes, we see it from the vibration of love or joy or peace or whatever it is that we're working with. Maybe we're just working with being present to ourselves. Maybe the most important thing I could do for myself right now is to just be present. Just take a drink of water or take a breath or walk and look out the window and be with nature. Maybe in those moments I can cultivate this frequency, this sound. It's a sound vibration, even though our ears can't hear necessarily. We're walking in the vibrational frequency this way. And life begins to become a reflection of what we're intending. And then we'll find what we're looking for. We'll find what we're emanating. Be that which you're looking for, and it will happen. It can't not. As quantum science shows us that, it's all a reflection of what we're putting out there, and it comes right back.
I would experience that, just what you described, and then when I would add the sound bowls, the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls, and they would amplify. They amplify that vibration, and I notice in my own life it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And that the energy codes have a way of really helping me to ground, embody, and the sound is helping to expand. And yet it's like this vibration of heaven earth, which you share so beautifully and have taught me what that is, what we're here for.
Absolutely. We are made of high frequency energies. In fact, I'll show you a picture. I have a little poster here because I was teaching a class yesterday. And this is where I awakened in the midst of what I was describing earlier. And this is who we are down here on the earth. And this is our higher self. And I woke up here just like that in a meditation. And I spent the next 10 years of my life trying to figure out, what that was and how do I reproduce that and how do I stay with that? Because in this place, there was nothing broken. There was nothing missing. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing to become. There was nothing that we were to achieve, and there was nowhere to go. There was just this pure, complete presence, a holy wholeness. And as we are struggling down here on earth, it's as if this doesn't exist. And we keep seeking and searching and running around the surface of the planet, trying to figure out what we're supposed to do next. And when we truly drop in and start building the circuitry to connect our mind, our body, and our breath, what happens is we start to have access to this. This starts to unveil. It starts to unveil the more circuits that we build here, because this can drop in and we can start having this whole life experience. So this is the heavenly version of us, and this is the earthly version of us, and we are truly meant to be the bridge between heaven and earth. And as we do, we start to have a different take on everything that happens in our lives. We start to realize that there's potential in everything. And I'm more interested in the potential than I am in the pain. I'm more interested in the potential of what I want, what I would choose, what I would go for, what kind of aliveness can I generate for myself. And perhaps someone watching right now isn't feeling very adventurous. You might feel a little crumpled. You might feel a little suppressed and compressed and afraid and frightened. And, because life is changing rapidly in our culture. And it's so important that we allow this higher self version of us to drop in and take care of this part of us that is trembling in this moment. Because those wobbles that occur inside of our system, they are all due to, I think I have another poster here that I can show, that the wobbles that we feel are these wobbles that happen right in here. And we have to learn to build these circuits where these blockages are. We have to build circuitry through that so that the field can be perfected. Because as we're moving from here to here, we start to feel more adventurous. We start to feel like, okay, I have a handle on this. But when we're crumpled over, we're kind of splatted, as I describe it in my coursework, that it's because we just haven't come to know the parts of us that have been kind of surfaced over. We kind of skated by there and made do in our lives. So for instance, Geraldine, when we met, there were some of these blockages here that were locked down really tight. And by Dylan leaving, it actually forced you into your core. It forced you into your core to find parts of you that you weren't accessing in life regular. But life uncommon unfolded for you. Life regular wasn't enough for you. And I just want to encourage everyone that is watching that all of this whole series is about us learning how to find all the ways to connect with the core, because the whole of our life is truly intended to allow this to drop in, and it drops in your core. This whole higher self is designed to land here as you, and it lands in your core. So when people are upset, they don't open up like this. When they're upset, they come to their core. When they're terrified, they come in. When they're angry, they come in. When they're hurt, they come in. And all of these are energetic vibrations. Emotions are energetic vibrations that are trying to activate in us. And when we accept them, we're no longer afraid. When you embrace that tremble that's inside of you, when you squeeze it back and you hug it and you start breathing up and down the whole central channel of your body, which is simple. You just take a breath from above your head and you just imagine that you're breathing down through this tube, right through the center of your brain and the center of your throat and through your chest and right into your belly, just right into your heart and your belly. And then you exhale and just drop that breath right down into the earth. And then you inhale up from the earth and you receive the loving presence and the guiding support that Mother Earth is always offering you. And you breathe it right up into your belly and you belong with it. You engage with it. You embrace it. You accept and receive. And then you exhale and shoot it right back out the top of your head. And with that goes everything, that you don't need, all the tangled up ideas of energy of how they're supposed to be held together. And it's just not true. And then you take another breath in through the center of your brain, through the center of your throat. Just make it up through your chest, into your heart, into your belly. And then exhale and just drop it right down through your pelvis and right down into the earth. And there's even a little exercise that I'm going to add on to this, because in just a few seconds, you can change your life forever. If you just hear this and learn it and grab it and utilize it, it will change everything. It's a process called Mula Bandha, and it means root lock. And it's like you're squeezing muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl, and it keeps you from living in your head where you write stories and you make life so hard, and it pulls you right in through your heart and right down into the wisdom of your gut, and it lands you there. And in such, you create a vibrational opening inside your system. You start emitting a better sound, a sound that is coherent, a sound that is resonant with alpha frequency and Mother Nature. And in that state, you think differently. So here's how you do it. You squeeze the muscles in the base of the pelvic bowl. And it's kind of like if you were going to the bathroom and you had to stop the stream instantly, squeeze it. You have to squeeze certain muscles to make that happen. It's okay, I'm a doctor, I can talk about these things, okay? So you just squeeze those muscles and keep them squeezed, and take a breath into your belly. And you keep squeezing those muscles, just breathe in your belly, and then exhale, keep them squeezed, and just drop it right down into the earth. And then you inhale up from the earth, right through those squeezed muscles, inhale into your belly, and then exhale right out the top. And you just keep them squeezed. And if you squeeze them several times throughout the day, you're going to start to learn that you can be in the middle of an upset. And if you just anchor yourself in the body like that, the body starts to filter all of your emotions and starts to make all of the different musical vibrations that you are to work in harmony as a beautiful song that's integrated, rather than these few notes that are off key and skewed out here, not making sense together because of the energies that we're familiar with versus the ones that we're here to become familiar with. We have to embrace the unfamiliar energies that happen when life surprises us, because life is always only ever trying to get us to unpack and unfold into our wholeness. That is the only thing that is ever happening on this planet. And it is so hard for humanity to wrap their minds around that. But when you come into your body, it becomes easier and easier and easier to begin to feel the connection to nature, and to feel a cosmic relationship, and to feel the sounds that come from beyond our planet and out into constellations. There truly are sounds. I play sounds in my workshops of Mother Earth as recorded from outer space, from NASA. And in that, we start to feel the vastness of our being. And it's true. There are parts inside of our cells that are vibrating at the same frequency as the planets overhead. And the planets vibrating with constellations overhead from there. And the constellations into the whole galaxy, the whole Milky Way. And our galaxy having a direct relationship with other surrounding galaxies. And they're all harmonically converging and surrounding each other in a giant rotational vortex that lands all the way back down inside your cells. And when we understand that kind of relationship, we don't feel so small. We don't feel so all alone. There are resources available to us, and all we have to do is learn how to breathe with them and to become resonant and coherent with them, and everything changes.
Dr. Sue, sound and vibration has been around since the beginning of time in every culture. And part of the work that you're doing, the best technique, the bioenergetic synchronization technique that your father created, that you are, it's also changing so many lives, that's also based on frequencies and energy. Would you share a little bit about that, and about how we tune our bodies through that system?
Absolutely. So what we're doing with bioenergetics, bioenergetics means the energy of the body. It just means the energy inside your system versus the energy outside of your body. And actually, quantum science is telling us that you never end. You have a visible body, and then you have an invisible body that goes on forever. And so, what we're doing in the energy codes is learning how to move, bridge the worlds between the visible and the invisible, so that we're gleaning from all this extended self. And inside bioenergetic synchronization work, it's a hands-on procedure, and there's also a self-administered version of it that allows us to find the blockages where energy is not flowing, and allow a connection between these areas of blockage, and allow them to synchronize in their energy flow, to be aware of each other, so that all parts of my body are aware of all other parts of my body. And the significance there is, if the brain is not aware that there's a problem in your low back, it might not even be trying to heal it. If the brain is not aware of a problem in your digestion, it might not even be trying to correct for it. So if the sensory nervous system and the motor nervous system are not in coherence and connected and communicating with each other, then we can have issues that the body isn't even trying to heal, because it's not aware that there's a problem there that it needs to be working on. It's busy thinking there's some other priority, like a drama or a trauma or a stress or something mental or emotional that's going on in our lives. And so the body gets left behind. And when those aren't working together, we're in trouble and we don't heal. So there is a universal pulse. I've been talking about this cosmic intelligence and this sound vibration. Well, sound is only made possible by a movement of energy. Sound is a movement of energy. When we compress energy, it starts moving and vibrating, and then there's a sound. And so inside the body, that sound isn't audible by our human ear for the most part, but it is there. And so we're using and teaching people how to become practitioners to work with a pulsating universal energy. For instance, right now, if everyone watching would just turn your palms open and soften your hands, don't make them stiff, just soften your hands. There is an energy that is happening. Maybe you turn the hands slightly toward each other so that they could kind of bounce the energy off of each other. And there's a pulse that's happening. And it is about like this. I'm gonna go with every other one so you can feel it. Boom, 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 boom. And that pulse, if you're able to feel that, you sense and feel it's the same for all of us. It is in the background and it's constantly drumming. It's constantly a sound that upon which we build all of life. It's a universal pulsation, and that pulsation is available inside the developing embryo before there is even a heart to beat. It's not the heartbeat. It's the rhythm that builds the heart. And then the heartbeat starts on top of that. And there are other pulsations that start to come into symphony when our consciousness starts to develop and our personality starts to ensue. And the next thing you know, we're this mechanism of a symphony with a various degree of pulses that are constantly rhythmically keeping us alive. And so with bioenergetic synchronization, what we're doing is we're finding these areas of the body that aren't talking to each other, and we're holding our hands on them with north and south polarities, etc. And it starts to create a communication between these areas to get them synchronized again. And so we'll be working with it, and one will be pulsing and the other one will just be gone. Nothing there. No communication between the two. And then it will start pulsating, and one of them will be rapid and the other one will be slow. And then one will disappear and the other one will start coming on stronger. And then maybe they'll be out of sync, but they'll both be there with strength. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And when it synchronizes, communication is establishing itself in the body. And that flow that we were talking about, that we were skating around, starts to come into unison. And as it starts to synchronize in that kind of way, our field perfects, our bodies heal, our emotional states stabilize, our mind opens up to infinite possibilities. And the next thing you know, we're healing, and we're more than healing. We're actually living our dharma. We're living our purpose. You know, this is what's been happening with you, Geraldine. That's what the opening has been, that you've witnessed in your own life in the last few years. This is what happened in my own life. Even though I grew up with these concepts, I had to discover it for myself. We each have to discover it personally. It's not enough to have the theory. It's not enough to grow up knowing what to say or how to talk about it. It's not enough to read all the books and find all this fascinating information out. We have to learn to have the experience of being the quantum self in the body, embodiment. So hopefully that's speaking to what you were wanting to talk about regarding bioenergetics.
Amazing. Yes. Yes. It's bringing our complete self, the self we know here in this physical form, and the bigger self that we are, the part of the cosmos or the universum, into a harmony where creativity happens, healing happens. And that's the idea behind the series, was to bring together leading scientists, New York Times bestselling authors, musicians, sound healing pioneers, and for all of us to share in this kind of conversation from our areas of expertise, and to give people tools, especially now, Dr. Sue, during this time where life has just transformed completely for everyone in the world. You know, we're confronted with, it's unprecedented times with challenges that we couldn't have imagined before. And how do we create a rebirth? How do we create healing for ourselves? How do we open ourselves to these ideas that sound and vibration and energy are really things that can transform our life and have been available in every culture since the beginning of time?
You know, since this pandemic opened up in our world and we were asked to sit down, go home and sit down, and basically what has unfolded is an autopilot that we were on, doing and creating and driving and making life happen, has had to be interrupted, and a check-in has been invited. Are you really doing what you want to do? Is it really aligning for you? Are you in touch with what you really want to be in touch with? Are you making decisions from your true self, or are you surviving and just doing what you thought you were supposed to be doing? And it's a real invitation for us to drop in to a beautiful way of reevaluation, a way of taking note and making new decisions and making new choices, and turning your life toward what you really fully, wholly want to be experiencing. You know, the one thing that I would say, if I just return back to this image, is that we think this is who we are and that we seek guidance from here. And that isn't what I really ultimately want people to understand. I want people to understand that this is who we are. This is who you actually are, and this is what you're doing. So this is who you are, and this is a vehicle that's just taking you out into life. It's like, it's how we engage in the physical world. We compress ourselves into a physical body, but we also still exist right here and everywhere in between. And so as we allow ourselves to be this whole thing, we start to move about as this one, moving through life, instead of this one calling for help. This one calls for help, but if it will receive the help, if this one will receive the help, it allows a merging. And then now I am the higher self in this body, looking out through these eyes, realizing that everything I come in contact with is an adventure. Let me see how I'm going to embrace this. Let me see what I can create with this. Maybe I can leave this better than I found it. Maybe I can open up here. Maybe I can explore and connect and be intimate and available in every aspect of my life. And if I do that, if I choose to do that, no matter what the other people are doing, no matter what life is offering up to me, if I'm on the inside here in this secret little experiment to see if I can just be open and allow this flow to constantly happen, my life will change. My life will change. And I will be seeing everything as an opportunity to explore and to experiment and to express myself out into the world. The only thing that we need to do is learn how to go about doing that. And you know, that's what I'm so interested in teaching humanity, is how to connect the dots, how to build the neurocircuitry to allow the song that's inside of you to come out easily. How to build the circuitry to allow the music that you are to be enhancing your life and everyone around you, to be finding the solution instead of panicking in the problem, to be qualified to ground yourself and metabolize whatever's happening in your life, rather than getting bowled over by it or freaked out or overwhelmed. And you know, I've gotten to watch this happen with you, Geraldine, in your life. And there were moments where you would just fold back in and go back. And what was happening was you needed to go back in and pick up another part of you and hook it up with the parts of you that were already okay, and hook them together. And then you'd be okay for a while. And then you'd get down the road, and shortly after that, you'd be over here. And then little by little, you started grabbing a hold of every one of those moments and pulling them together and just being in wonder and awe with how much can happen, and how you put your efforts in a direction, and all of a sudden people show up and connections happen, and you're bringing so many people around the world together because you're doing exactly what we're talking about. You're doing that. And it's by embracing and accepting what you're feeling and embracing the unfamiliar vibrations and allowing them to become familiar. And as soon as they become familiar, they're not so bad. And they actually reinvent themselves right inside of you as something else. So something that was fear, when we embrace it, it actually turns into passion that gives us enough juice to go do 10 times more with half the effort. It's an amazing thing that these emotional states that we hold as separate vibrations, separate frequencies, when they're integrated, they actually make contributions. So we are, instead of procrastination, we just have patience. Instead of bowling over something, we have fortitude. Instead of being angry, we have fire in the belly that allows us to be alive and have it. And it's just a matter of using these energies instead of running from them. But we just have to learn how to do that.
I know I'm thinking about in great pieces of music, there's the magic is really made in the silences. The magic is made in those spaces, and when we find the time and when we find the ability to sit in the stillness, to not try to figure it out, to not avoid it, but just to sit in it for a moment, there's these symphonies that play, and you begin to put, as you said, pieces of yourself together that you never could have touched before. And so much inspiration. And I'm thinking about the crystal bowls, and so often playing with the bowls, they will suddenly make different sounds than they'd ever made before, depending on what I'm going through, depending on who's in the room when I'm playing concerts or sound baths. Suddenly they'll get this high overtone, or they'll get a very deep sort of rumbling, and I begin to understand that they are really working on different energies, and just working to help people to feel what you've just talked about, and to reveal it, release it. And therein is also, that's the healing and the transformation.
It's always in the space in between.
Yeah.
So the bowl is playing and the person is there, and the person is vibrating and the bowl is vibrating. The person is vibrating in as a reflection of what they've accepted inside of themselves and what they are in denial of, what they are unaware of and what they are aware of. The combination of those causes that human system to be vibrating a certain frequency. And then you bring the bowl into that and start playing it, and it starts to harmonize, and it starts to cause these frequencies to activate some of the inactive frequencies and to connect the dots. And because that's happening in the human, then the bowl starts playing differently, because who it's interacting with is changing. And so those vibrational waves that are interacting with each other are celebrating one another, and they're creating a song together. The human heals, and the bowl gets to have its full life experience also, and its purpose is being served. And the human is also having its purpose being served, because its purpose is to awaken to all of its frequencies. So this is what I love about the crystal bowls, and the energy codes work together, because when we're embodying consciousness and we're playing the bowls, we're taking responsibility. We're not just surrendering our lives to the bowls and saying, here, heal me. We're saying, hey, I want to get this on my own. I mean, I want to own who I am. Can you give me some help? And the bowl says, sure. And then as soon as it starts facilitating through the tone that it is, the human starts awakening in that same way. And what it gives back into the environment is a more coherent, more comprehensive, integrated being, a state of consciousness that is more comprehensive than it was just a moment ago. And as nature would have it, that's how we're supposed to be operating. So nature's on our side, and it will allow us to continue to sustain that frequency long after the bowl stops playing. That's by design what we're doing. In ancient Egyptian history, they were using sound healing vibrations in the chambers, and the atonement chambers were all in alignment with exactly what we're talking about right here. They were using giant tuning forks made out of precious metals because of the frequencies. And now we have the technology to produce these crystal bowls with the same elements inside of them, or infused within, that allow the vibrational frequency and the energetic presence of these precious metals set into motion in certain wave forms that activate that within our own system. And the next thing you know, we're enlivened, We're awake in ways we weren't before, just because, we're sitting there in the bath of it all.
Dr. Sue, I've been playing for the cancer patients at the Cancer Support Community, which is available to anyone, these organizations, with free alternative healing methods, whether it's yoga or sound healing. And the offering of the crystal singing bowls meditations for the last 5 years now have not only changed my life and their lives, but has really created this community of sound, building this vibrational frequency of love. And I know when we're talking about these pristine vibrations that we can create also in our own systems, it's what you share about the vibration of cherish, something that's very precious, of love being this universal solvent. And this quote that I've had from the time I was a young person and singing was, music is love in search of a word. And just in the different conversations that we will have in this series, so many of the musicians and even scientists are talking about that's at the essence of everything we're talking about, that is the great healing force. That's what's apparent in music. When I think about the work with the cancer patients after we've sat together in crystalline meditation, that's what remains, is this vibrational frequency of love.
When we expand out to the unified field, in the unified field, there's no experience. In the purest of the quantum reality layers, there is no experience because everything is present. There's no point of relativity. There's no dark and light and cold and hot and good and bad. It just doesn't exist when it's all there in equanimity. And when we start compressing it and compress 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 that field and compress it, we eventually get to physical form. When we start decompressing and decompressing and decompressing all the way back out to that unified field, and we compress it again, that first compression creates the vibration. And that vibration is the vibrational frequency that we call love. It is the first presence. Otherwise, there's nothing, there's no thing, there's nothing. And when we compress, we create a presence. Now there's something different. And in that compression, that vibration is the same thing. It's the same frequency that we call love, which is why every healing modality, every sacred text, every ancient wisdom, all comes back to that truth, because it's the basic foundation of our existence. And so when we will choose love, consciously and intentionally, inside of our crumpled, distorted, fractured kind of feeling, if we'll just choose to love right there, just choose it. No matter what's going on, no matter how it all falls apart, no matter what happens next, at least I have love that I am. I have me. Then if we will start to build on that, we will build an understanding of who we are. Every single feeling that we have, if we will love the feeling instead of trying to get rid of it, if we will love the fear, if we will love the pain, if we will love the feeling of abandonment, if we will love the abuse that we have been through and survived, if we will just love ourselves in the face of it, not asking for more of it, but just saying, you know what, I'm here. If we will allow that to be our immediate go-to, we will unpack anything. We will heal all of it. We will step inside of who we really are, and we will rise as the one that we were meant to be on this planet. And as we do that, we start to shed our shackles, and we start to, have some wings, and things start to come alive inside of us. And they start to join that universal pulse that is here for us, that is trying to rhythmically make its way right through our lives. This boom, 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 boom. It's right here all the time. It's completely present. And if we'll just allow that to be the equivalent of love inside our systems, and just know that anything that I come up against is going to be managed with universal assistance cosmic assistance if I just remain open, and if I just turn to love, if I just keep loving, just love myself, love into it, just count on the love of God or the divine or Mother Nature, just allow a little crack in that encapsulation that we've found ourselves in. Just one little crack is all it takes. Love is the universal solvent. I call it the universal solvent. The dear friend of mine from early on in my days of pursuing this whole understanding of what happened with me that day, that first opening occurred. And he used to speak about love being the universal solvent. And it changed my life to realize that everything dissolves in love. There are no exceptions to this, because that very first vibration is love. And then we create everything else inside of that, happy and not so happy, expansive and exploring and possible or impossible and contracted and just folded over in pain. But all of those creations are happening inside of a container that is love. So anything that's happening in our lives, if it is embraced instead of rejected, it will automatically start dissolving. Nothing can withstand our loving presence. And every single one of us will surrender to that reality in the course of our lives. We will get to the place where that is true enough to make a difference in our lives. The question is, when? Will we volunteer to surrender? Will we allow it to be now and start living our lives in that possibility and discovering every year more of ourselves and setting ourselves more and more free? Or will we continue to be contracted and hold love at bay and wait until it's the last days of our lives when we're too tired to keep fighting, or we're too old to worry about it anymore? And in those moments, we will surrender our thinking minds and all of our beliefs along with them, and we will slide into this soup of love. And I've had the great privilege of being present with newborns coming into the world in many a delivery room. And I've had the great privilege of being with people in their final breath, both of my parents and many patients that I care deeply for, bedside in their transition. And what I know happens is that we return to the state that we arrive in. We return to this pure innocence, and we are nothing but love. Everything else falls away. And we are at free will choice to find that state now and to start growing that state up into this amazing creative presence on the planet that is lovingly available for transformation and for innovation. And we can exercise that free will choice anytime. And sound frequencies of moving the energy in our body allow that choice to become easier sooner than if we remain stagnant and clamped down in the ways that we have. The bowls open people. I teach breath work. It opens people, causes them to vibrate like the bowl themselves. I work with sound and tone and vibration for the same reason, to open the system. I teach yoga for the same reason, to open the system and to create sacred space so that the sound of us can be vibrating us open even more. And the more open and flowing we are, the more this energy inside this system can flow easily. When it's cramped down and compressed and anchored in all these kinds of distorted ways, energy can't move. Energy has to move in order for us to experience ourselves. Energy has to be moving and vibrating for us to know and feel who we are. And so as we come together in the spirit of this kind of conversation, we know that we are here to allow sound vibration to open us up to the true sacred space that we are. So when the sacred science of sound came about, I knew it was time to tie a lot of pieces together for a lot of people. And that's exactly what this kind of conversation will do for people.
Because there's a sacredness to the science and there's a sacredness to the sound. Dr. Sue, I'd love to invite you to to close our session with some toning together, with anything you'd like to seal what you just said, which was so profound.
Oh, sure. So my voice is a little hoarse because I've been talking nonstop for I don't know how many days in a row now. So bear with me here. But I would love for everyone to. There are three simple tones that we can do that are about opening to this divine self, opening on an om with an om, and revealing it with a ma and ma will tone together, and then a ha which grounds it. So it's an om and a ma and a ha. Just by working with those tones, we do so. So on the O of the Om, I'm going to invite everyone to reach out with your consciousness in every direction as far as you can go with integrity. Just an integrated, actually go out there. And on the M of the Om, bring that to the center of your brain, into right above the soft palate. So the hard palate, the roof of your mouth, just behind that, the soft palate, and let it anchor all the way down to your heart on the M of the Om. And then from the Ma, we on a separate breath, we'll start with the Ma deep in our core, and it is the reflection. The Om draws energy of the cosmos in. The Ma reveals it back out again, and the Ha lets it anchor. And so let's just do this together, okay? So open your jaw and open your shoulders and open your hips so that all of this can come right through the body. A deep breath in. And deep breath in. And a breath in. And by allowing that to happen over and over and over and over and over and over in our lives, we begin to walk as heaven, earth, the divine in a body here on earth. That is what we came to do. And it is certainly a much more joyful way to engage in life as we do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sue. So much gratitude for all you are doing in the world, for all you offer of generosity, wisdom, loving presence. It's transformational. I can't speak. But it's like tick tock, tick tock. What are we waiting for? There is so much to share and to experience with the vibrational frequency of love, beginning with ourselves. And I thank you. I thank you for everything you've given to me and to so many others.
Oh. Geraldine, I love you so much. And I thank you so much for what you're doing for the world by bringing these conversations together. And everything that I know everyone is open to. I know what's headed down the pike for everyone in this series. I'm so looking forward to everyone's experience through all of this. And I thank you so much for being who you are and caring to bring it together and allowing people to flourish in the light of sound. It is a great, great gift. So thank you for having me. Anytime you're ever doing anything, I want to be a part of it. I love you so much.
Silence in that stillness is everything. Everything. Thank you, Dr. Sue.
Absolutely. Blessings to everyone. Much love.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this opening of the Sacred Science of Sound with Dr. Sue Morter.